Hello YouTube, it's Soñé, and I'm here making this quick video for you guys today entitled Erinle Speaks. And the point of this video is to talk about one of the biggest and most controversial things that we have in the Orisha community when it comes to the Orisha Erinle, and hopefully clear up a few points on this topic on whether or not he speaks. I'm giving my personal opinion and arguing my point to the community. I believe that the video may be a little bit controversial for some people, but I hope that my points can be heard and interpreted and understood with the common sense knowledge that I'm trying to give into the community based on my personal opinion, points, and views. I am not trying to change anybody's views. But one of the biggest things that we have within this community when it comes to the Orisha Erinle is whether or not he speaks. Inle, I have my little notes here on the side. Inle, a lot of houses have this thing with him that they say that he does not speak because of an old Pataquie or story in which Yemaya rips out Inle's tongue. What ended up happening was Inle and Yemaya got married. For those of you who don't know the Pataquie, Inle and Yemaya were married. She takes him into her realm or into her palace underneath the ocean, and he lives there with her for a while, and eventually he decides to return back to the earth, or back out into the earth, into his own home. And before he did, Yemaya cuts out his tongue in order for him not to reveal her secrets and the things that he saw and the things that she has and her magic and things like that. So for this reason, or with this Pataquie, a lot of people say that Inle does not speak. I disagree. I disagree on this point of Inle not speaking, and the point of this video is for me to show my points as to why I disagree that Inle does not speak. But a lot of people say that the mysteries of Inle were lost, and the mysteries of Inle are unknown in Cuba and things like that. I also disagree with that. Although I do agree that a lot of mysteries were lost, I disagree that we don't know them nowadays. There's a lot of people with all this technology that we have, and YouTube and the internet and Facebook and emails and messengers and all these things. There's been a lot of people who have gone back to Africa, and they have gathered information and rituals and ceremonies and things like that that have been reintroduced into the Lukumi community or into the West, into the Americas, into Cuba, the Caribbean, and all those things. A lot of information that has been brought back over. Some people are more traditionalist, okay, in the religion, and those people that are a bit more traditionalist, who are Lukumi traditionalists, is what I'm trying to say, follow the old ways, or the old Cuban ways. And in the old Cuban ways, the point is that they say that Inle does not speak because of a lack of knowledge of his rituals, because of a lack of a tongue and whatnot. Now, I want to debate a few points when it comes to whether or not Erinle speaks. Give me 1 second, you guys. Okay, so there's three major differences that I have seen when it comes to Inle. One of them makes sense, and the other two, well, one of them makes the most sense. For those of you, there's houses out there that follow that Inle does not speak. I've been to rituals in which Inle is being consecrated in a house in which Inle does not speak, and they do not cast the Inle shells on the floor. That, in my opinion, makes sense. If you're a house that follows that Inle does not speak, then you cannot cast Inle's shells. The second way is there's houses that they say that Inle does not speak, yet they cast his shells in lavatorio. If you're casting shells, that means that Inle is speaking. If at any point any shells hit the floor, the Orisha is speaking, okay, through those shells. So there's one house or one lineage in which Inle does not speak and they do not cast his shells. that makes sense. 2 plus 2 equals 4. If he doesn't speak, then you can't cast his shells. There's another tradition or another lineage in which Inle does not speak, yet they cast the shells. That makes no sense. In my personal mind, that makes no sense. If you're saying that he does not speak, then it makes no sense for you to cast his shells. There's a third way, which is technically mine, in which Inle does speak and the shells are casted. I know of particular people who believe that, or who also follow the tradition of Inle speaking, and they cast the shells, and they even do ita with Inle. And I know quite a few people who actually have Inle itases that have, you know, Inle has spoken with them. So if you're going to follow a tradition in which you say that he does not speak, it makes only sense for you to not cast his shells, because then the Orisha would literally not be speaking. So I'm trying to make that little point to start with, because that's a lot of the things that you see, a lot of houses that they say, oh, in my house Inle does not speak, yeah, Maya has to speak for Inle and this and that. Yet when the godfather, the godmothers consecrated Inle for a godchild, they cast the shells. And then the Orisha is speaking. There's other houses in which a bata, when you receive Inle, you usually receive Inle, Ibuyoto, and a bata. In some houses, a bata takes shells. In other houses, a bata does not take shells. In some houses, a bata takes shells and they are not casted. In other houses, a bata takes shells and they are casted. If that's the case, then also a bata is speaking. Although there is no taboo against a bata speaking. Now that I think about it, everybody uses Yemaya to speak for Inle. I guess it would make more sense. And this is just me throwing it out there. I'm not saying that I do it. I'm just saying that now that I'm doing the video, I'm just thinking about this. Some of you out there who have shells for a bata, why wouldn't you just cast, if you follow the tradition that Inle does not speak, then a bata can certainly speak, because a bata never got her tongue cut out, or there's no taboos about a bata speaking. So instead of using Yemaya, why aren't you, some of you out there, using a bata? I just got that idea in my mind right now. So anyways, some people follow the tradition. When I've had this conversation about whether or not Inle speaks, some people have told me different reasons. Number one reason that everybody says, or that the majority, the 80% of people tell you, oh, Inle does not speak because Yemaya cut off his tongue. So everybody says that because of that one Pataquie, or that one story. I've heard another version in which someone told me that Inle does not speak because he comes from another town or from another place. I disagree with that also. Why do I disagree with that? First of all, the Orishas are beyond physicality. They are beyond the human body. They are beyond the need of a tongue, beyond the need of a body, beyond the need of anything to either move, speak, get things done. They are energy. And Orisha is a deity. It is a spirit. It is a being of light. It requires no body for it to do anything, including moving from a town to another. When people told me that Inle came from another town, I said, I still disagree with that, because if Inle does come from another town, which by the way, there's 1,000,001 Orishas that come from different towns in different areas. And let me tell you guys something, in case we forget, there's Pataquies and people who say that Odudua comes from up north and or Egypt. And as far as I'm concerned, Egyptians do not speak Yoruba, yet Odudua speaks through the shells. And nobody has a debate about that. There's other people, or there's other Orishas who have come from different cities, from different regions, and ended up in Yoruba land, and they all speak through their shells. So if you're one of those people that say that Inle does not speak because he comes from another city, I disagree with you, because if you move into another city, into another country, into another state, into another whatever, into another planet, another galaxy, another star system, I don't care, you become conscious of where you are, and you become accustomed to where you are. Most of us, myself included, look at this. I come from Cuba and I'm here now speaking English. Okay, so I came into this new land and I had to learn the customs and the traditions and the celebrations and the holidays and everything of this land, and I learned the language including it. So for those of you who follow that Inle does not speak through the shells because he comes from another land, let me tell you something. I'm sure that he spent enough time in the Yoruba land for him to pick up a few words, a few phrases, a few something for him to be able to communicate through the shells. So I disagree with that he does not speak because he comes from another town. Alright, there may be an interruption in the video because my battery died, so I had to recharge it. But anyways, the last point that I was making is I have a friend who is a speech pathologist who happens to actually have Inle crowned directly, which is another controversy which I'm going to speak of eventually in the video. This friend of mine and I were having a conversation a while ago, and I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not sure if he wants me to mention it or not, but if he does, I'll write it in little subtitles or something later on when I speak with him and get his permission to put it online. But anyways, this friend of mine is a speech pathologist. He went to school, he does his degree, is teaching people how to speak and dealing with speech impediments on people and things like that. When him and I got into the topic of, once again, about Inle and whether he speaks or not and whatnot, he brought up a very interesting point to me, which I had never even thought about. I have never agreed with the point that Inle speaks, that Inle does not speak. I've always said that Inle does speak. But he brought another point that is very logical. The Pataquie that a lot of people say with Yemaya cutting out his tongue, the Yemaya cuts out or rips out his tongue. The tongue, it is simply a, shoot, I forgot the right word that he had said. It is it's a conductor, or it is something that helps with speech. It is not what creates speech. Your vocal cords is what creates the vibration with the air and everything that comes out of your mouth, which is what you hear as a word. So Inle gets his tongue cut out. That does not mean he cannot speak. It just means he can't speak too properly. There's plenty of humans out there who have missing pieces of tongue, or have their tongue missing for whatever reason, any disease, any accidents, anything like that, and they can still speak. A lot of them, when they speak, they drool, or they sound very weird as they're speaking, but they can still be legible. I mean, it also depends on how much of the tongue was taken from them, and in the Pataquie for Inle, nobody ever specifies how much of the tongue was ripped out or cut off, but his vocal cords are still intact. So Inle can, technically speaking, according to this Pataquie, Inle can also still speak. Again, I'm not trying to change anybody's views. I'm not trying to impose my views upon anybody. I'm just saying something that makes sense. A lot of you out there follow things that you hear from this person, from that person, or from your godfather and your godmother, and you don't even question it. Everything, people, everything in the religion should be questioned. Everything, and everything needs to make complete and total sense in your mind. If you're doing a ceremony, you need to ask, why are we doing this? Why are you putting that there? Why is this like this? Why is this orisha like that? Why do we treat this orisha like this? Everything has a significance in the religion, including the Pataquies that you hear that have to make sense in what you are following as a house and as a personal religious person. If the Pataquie does not make sense, or your tradition does not make sense, you need to dig deeper into it and figure out a way that will make sense. So, the vocal cords is what creates the sound. It's what creates you to be able to verbalize your things. The tongue is just simply something that helps you. Besides being having the taste buds and helping you taste your food and everything, it is just simply something that helps you to verbalize yourself better. The way you're moving, the air is coming out of your mouth, the way you're moving your tongue up and down and to the sides and everything like that. So the tongue has nothing to do with Inle not being able to speak. I will say it again, the orisha is beyond physicality. Even if Inle had got his tongue ripped out and then he didn't speak anymore as a mortal, as he was in a human body, once he discards that body, he goes back to being energy, which means you lose all human hindrance. You know, you're no longer hindered by your human physicality. You're no longer, if you couldn't walk, you can walk. There's so many of you out there, which is like, it blows my mind how so contradictory and hypocritical some people can be. If you follow, you all say, oh, this person died, you know, now they're in a better place, now they're no longer suffering, and this and that. If the person had cancer and they die, and now they no longer have cancer because they died and they're in spirit form, they're happy, what makes you think if Inle got his tongue cut off, he passes, he now can't speak because he, as a human body, like, how do people not notice certain things like this, you know? If you follow the tradition that the spirit is beyond pain, beyond pleasure, beyond physicality, beyond words, you can inhibit, you can hinder the spirit with a tongue. Like, out of everything in the body, you're just making a big deal about the tongue, you know? So the Orishas are beyond all of this. And now I want to give you guys a little bit of other information. There's plenty of Pataquies out there. There's plenty of stories about the Orishas, and this Orisha with the other, and this, and they did this, and they had this fight, and they had this argument, and they loved each other, and they got married, and they had children, and there's a heck load of stories, okay, for all of the Orishas out there. All of you out there, or most of you out there who follow that Inle does not speak, the only story you have is Yemaya cutting out Inle's tongue. That is the one and only story there is with Inle, that Yemaya cut out his tongue. Now, Yemaya, there's plenty of other stories in which, for example, Yemaya Okuti gets her head cut off. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's a bunch of you who are watching me right now who have Yemaya Okuti either as your Yemaya path that works with you, or Yemaya Okuti as your crown. As far as I'm concerned, I don't hear any of you out there saying that your Yemaya Okuti cannot speak because her head got cut off. If we go to this technicality of this Pataquie with Inle and this Pataquie with Yemaya, I don't see how it makes sense for you guys to say that Inle does not speak because Yemaya cut out his tongue, but Yemaya Okuti can speak. When Inle lost his tongue and Yemaya Okuti lost the entire head. So I don't even know how Yemaya Okuti sees, walks, or is able to smell or hear things, because she couldn't be able to do any of that stuff. She couldn't be able, nothing. She has no head. So she got her head cut off. So for those of you out there who are saying these things, think about this Pataquie. Okay, especially those of you who have Yemaya Okuti as your crown or as your path of Yemaya. There's other Pataquies in which, for example, Obatala gets hit with a stone and he gets broken into either 8 pieces or 16 pieces depending on the Pataquie. I don't hear any of you who have Obatala crown saying that Obatala can walk or Obatala can't touch things, Obatala, because his entire body got broken into pieces. So Inle lost his tongue, Yemaya lost her head, Obatala got his entire body broken into pieces. And yet you're all going back to Inle and not being able to speak. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense while you guys watch this video. There's another Pataquie in which Ogun and Shango fight almost to the death, and they butcher each other with machetes. Butchered each other with machetes, people, okay? I saw that in Cuba. When I was a little kid, I saw a man in front of my house get butchered with a machete, like a machete butchering a man. I saw this with my own 2 eyes, okay? So I don't see any of you out there saying that Ogun can walk well, or that Shango can run, or that their hands are missing, or that whatever, because let me tell you, when I saw this man get butchered in Cuba by that machete, that was really nice. I was gonna say really nice and bloody, but it wasn't nice. It was just really freaking bloody. And the point is that it's a very intense thing. no Orisha by their Pataki is hindered by anything in the physical way. A Pataki is a story, it is a legend, it is mythology, it is something that teaches you something, it is something that teaches us something about the religion and or something about the Orisha. Inle having his tongue cut out means, in my opinion, again, this is just simply my opinion, it means that he will never reveal the secrets of Yemaya. It means that his pact and him and Yemaya's pact is that deep. The children of Inle need to have utter and complete respect for Yemaya because they are, besides being married, they have this other pact in which Inle will never ever reveal anything of Yemaya. There's another Pataki in which Agayu gets burned by the fires of Chango. You know, Agayu tells Chango that he's his son, Chango doesn't believe him, Chango throws him in the lava or in the fire or whatever, and Agayu comes out. In the Pataki, it does say Agayu obviously comes out unharmed. Agayu comes out unharmed because that's obviously his sache, okay? His sache is fire, and obviously the fire is not going to do anything to him. That is a perfect example there, people, of an Orisha being beyond physicality. I hope I'm making sense when I'm talking all these things, because I know sometimes I'll just ramble. But in my opinion, the Orisha Inle Speaks, there's people who are nowadays getting crowned with Inle Direct. This is a big controversy in our community, in the Lukumi community, because a lot of people follow that, and for the last few years, a lot of people follow that if you're a son of Inle or a daughter of Inle, you will get crowned Yemaya or Inle, because Inle not having a tongue, not being able to speak, and blah, 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 blah. Well, recently, there has been more pop-ups of children of Inle who have been crowned directly with Inle. I agree with this. I feel like it is, I guess I would have to say, an evolution of the religion itself, an evolution of Inle worship. But I agree. I agree that every Orisha should go direct on the head. Every single Orisha. If you're a son of Agayu, you will get crowned Agayu directly. And now that is a perfect example right there too. There are houses of Ocha that say that Agayu does not get crowned direct, so they crown Chango or Agayu. There are other houses in which Agayu does get crowned direct. There are houses of Ocha that say Asohano does not get crowned direct, so they crown with Asohano. They either do Yemaya or Asohano, which makes no sense to me, or Batala or Asohano, which, if you know stuff about Batala, you can kind of get away with that, and or Oshun or Asohano, which slightly again makes no sense to me. You know, out of the three, I think Obatala will be what I would say makes the most sense. Mainly because those of you who follow Yemaya or Asohano or Chum or Asohano, you have to realize that Asohano is an Orisha that has big taboo with water, and then thus you're putting a water Orisha on the person's head. That makes no sense. For that, you put a Batala, who is a one-size-fits-all Orisha. Or Batala is the one and only Orisha that can go on the head of any person in the world. So that, in that sense, Asohano, for me, in my opinion, would make more sense that if you follow that he does not get crowned directly, it will make more sense for you to crown Obatala or Asohano. Now, these are just traditions and things that I have personally heard. I'm a firm believer Asohano can be crowned directly on the head, and there's plenty of people who have Asohano crowned directly on the head. The same thing goes for Inle. Inle can be crowned directly on the head. There are Osums that have popped out for Inle. My opinion is this, you guys. Like I said, there is a lot of new material, a lot of new information coming over from Africa. People who have traveled to Africa, people who have received Orishas in Africa, and they have brought them over into the Lukumi community and started spreading them. Now, a lot of you out there like to do things on the hush-hush, and then you don't like when other people do them. That is just simply and complete and total hypocrisy, people, okay? And I have noticed this in the community over and over again. A lot of you follow the thing of, oh, this person did that wrong, but when it comes to your turn in your house, your turn in your house and you have to do a particular something, a lot of you go around and you just say, oh, well, you know, we just gotta do it. It's just gotta be done. This is just how we're gonna do it, and this and that. You're just being hypocritical, people. You all are being hypocritical. In my opinion, Inle can speak. Stop saying things that make no sense. No Orisha needs a tongue. And in case you haven't forgotten, and in case you don't remember, there are Orishas, regular Orishas, Yemayao, Chun, Chango, Batala, everybody, who have all the Orishas have a particular ceremony of Ache in which the Orisha comes out and speaks. The same thing goes for Inle. If Inle does not speak when he comes down mounted, obviously he needs to have the Ache ceremony done so he may be able to speak and utilize a person's tongue. When the Orishas come down, all of the Orishas, Elegua, Gumo, Batala, Chango, Yemayao, Chun, everybody, every single person, they never speak. They never speak because none of them have the facility to utilize the person's tongue until the ceremony is done. The same thing gets applied to Inle. Or how can you people not apply the same thing to Inle? How does that make any sense in your own personal minds? I will leave you guys now, and I will leave you guys with this question. Does Inle speak or does Inle not speak? Think about it for yourself. Not with your godfather, not with your godmother. A lot of you out there are afraid of standing up to your godfather or your godmother, which is wrong. You should have a good relationship with your godfather and your godmother in which you can sit down and you can say, hey, this makes no sense to me. Can you explain it to me? A lot of you just follow blindly. Following blindly is never good. You should all have a head on your shoulders. You should all have your own intelligence and your own opinion. When I teach something to someone, I tell you, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I think, this is why I believe it, this is why I think it, but you need to come up with your own conclusion. So I believe Inle can speak. Sit down, think about it, read Pataquies, read stories, do your own research, apply 2 plus 2, okay, apply common sense. Apply common sense with other Orishas and Pataquies and story of other Orishas, and then decide whether or not Inle should be allowed to speak or not. Again, in my house, Inle speaks. Thank you guys for letting me talk. Thank you guys for watching me. Thank you guys for, I guess, listening to me rumble. And I don't know why I'm stuttering today, but I guess something must be going on that I'm stuttering. See, we might be talking. So much talking about Inle not being able to speak. I'm not being able to utilize my own tongue now. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I wish you all the best. And I will just simply see you in the next video. And remember the question. Does Inle speak or not? Ashe. 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 Do. Bye, you guys.